And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we're focused on Star Trek the Original Series, penultimate episode of season 3, also the next to last episode of Star Trek the Original Series ever. All our yesterdays. Hello, welcome. I'm glad to be joined by you gentlemen. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Father's doing something over on his
He's
control.
I'm doing
he's
well. Yeah, all our yesterdays. I always have to stop and think about the names of these episodes.
a lot
My
of
computer's gonna
yesterdays.
gonna lag for a little bit, but yeah, like tomorrow is yesterday. All our yesterdays.
And return to tomorrow.
Return to return to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow belongs to me. What is that? I can't remember what that's from. It's a musical, isn't
But I
it?
think this is the only one of those three that's like a direct Shakespeare quote. It's from a famous Macbeth
Of those,
line.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's one of a slew of them, according to this article on Memory Alpha. We have Dagger of the Mind, the
Oh, from
Conscience of the
Shakespeare in
King.
general. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. By any other name.
hmm
How sharper than a serpent's tooth. I like that one.
It is to have a thankless child. Yes, yeah.
No, you're getting
Thine
into the
own
animated series.
Thine Own Self, Past Prologue, Heart of Stone. Some I
Yeah.
didn't even realize. Once More Onto the Breach, The Dogs of War, which is Voyager, I guess. Is that
No,
Voyager? No,
that's a
that's
DS9 episode.
DS9 episodes. Yeah. Sorry, DS9 episodes. You're right. Voyager was Mortal Coil. Discovery did Vaulting Ambition, which I didn't. I'm sure I realized it when we reviewed it, but
If you listen to Text Trek, you'd know that because we
yeah,
pointed it out.
you would. What is past is prologue. Such sweet sorrow, part 1 and 2, and then of course Lower Decks did Where Pleasant
Pleasant
Fountains
Fountains
Lie.
Lie.
I wonder if any of the newer shows did any other, and I know this is off topic, but sought any other literary sources for their titles, because there are a couple original series episodes like "Whom Gods Destroy" and "Is There in Truth No Beauty," that those aren't Shakespeare quotes, but they're from poetry and things like,
Right,
or it's an
right.
old
That's
saying, or
true.
even like Friday's Child, that kind of thing. I don't know
Yeah.
whether I feel like they maybe focused in a little too much on Shakespeare in later iterations, but.
Mm. There's been a few DS9 episodes and one Enterprise episode I can think of off the top of my head that quote the Bible,
Mm,
um,
okay.
and some poetry too. But I mean that's
Yeah, okay.
DS9. I don't know about like the current shows.
Right.
Chris Collins in the audience says this is one of my favorite episodes of season 3, and the sentiment seems to be carried by others.
Yeah.
He also wants to know it's one of these guest actors from Bread and yes, Ataz, which I found out was a play on A to Z. I couldn't believe
Yes.
how funny that is. Ataz is also in Bread and Circuses as the elder guy. So yeah.
Yeah.
PJ says I like this episode, the last good one. Joel's here. Hello, Joel. Hello, everyone. Always like this episode as well. Bully Fine Coup, great episode. Should have been the series finale. Well, I haven't seen the actual series finale in a while, so
Mm,
I'll have to hold out judgment. But I think that's a popular sentiment is that that this should have been the end of the series. I don't think either of them should have been the end of the series. I think the series
of
should have gone
course.
on and on, but whatever.
Yeah, I think people say that, not just because the last one is sort of not a great episode, but also just how this one ends with the Enterprise zooming off seems with the Nova in the background. It's just kind of an interesting way to end
It
the
is an
series
interesting way to
altogether.
end it. It's true.
Yeah.
Hey, nice to see you, Benjinium. Benjinium. I think I said it right this time. Starfleet boy. Uh, one day a year, there should be a strict and formal Star Trek discussion.
Oh, I like that.
I do like that too. On the Red Hour,
The Red Hour.
Yeah,
during the Red Hour.
we'll have to wear suits and ties and be clean shaven and
That'd be a good
have
name
our
for
notes and
that'd be a good name for a show. The Red Hour.
There, I think there is actually a Red
Isn't it a
Hour
production
podcast.
company for Ben
That's
Stiller or
Ben
something like
Stiller's
that?
production
Oh,
company.
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
I didn't
I
realize
mean,
that.
like if you were doing a YouTube stream or a podcast or
yeah.
something, that'd be a. I mean, you'd have to keep it at like an hour runtime consistently, or you. Well, I guess you wouldn't have to, but it would. I think it'd work better if you did. But yeah, that'd be a good name for something.
So, real quick episode recap here. Um, I'll go ahead and do
Yeah, go for it.
it. Kirk, Spock, and Dr. McCoy beam down to a planet that is 3 hours away from being destroyed in a supernova. And when they beam down, they discover that there's no one on the planet except for one life form, a bunch of duplicates of his. That's Mr. Ataz. And a library filled with tapes, lots and lots of tapes. These cool discs, by the way, that show video on them, which we could actually make that today, which is wild. Like we can make them and make them show video, which is crazy that because that's pretty cool, like a disc that
Yeah, it
has
was like
like
sticking a DVD into the little
yeah,
view
yeah,
screen.
it's kind of yeah,
They didn't
it's
have
kind of crazy.
streaming. They didn't have it like all in the cloud and you just stream it off of Netflix.
How do we
and
know the
Paramount
library
Plus.
isn't in the cloud? It is a shame that the library gets destroyed. But anyways, I digress. So they discover this library and this librarian, and he's in such a hurry to get folks off to where they need to be to safety, apparently, because he's known about the supernova, and he's like, yeah, you got to get to, you could pick anywhere you want to go. Like he's very cagey and like kind of vague about it. Like, what do you mean, like, anywhere you want to go? Literally anywhere in the planet's history, because apparently that's where everyone went, which is a neat, interesting, weird concept, which is like, oh, our planet's about to be destroyed. I guess we don't have the technology to leave the planet and find a new planet, so we're just going to go back
Yeah.
in time to.
They
We do have
say
that
that
technology.
Spock says they didn't have space travel,
Yeah, but it's wild. They had this,
but they
which
had
is
time travel.
Time travel. Yeah, so.
Yeah. And they'd had it for a while because Zorkon had it, and presumably it wasn't like modern day. But yeah, no, it's funny that they would develop this anyway. But it's good. It's a fascinating.
It is a
concept,
fascinating story, yes. And apparently, yeah, there's this whole guy Zorkon, who used to exile his enemies in time,
Zorkon.
which actually is a bad idea, because what if your enemy like changes the past to like. Maybe that's what happened to Zorkon, actually. Like, like you build up this whole movement against Zorkon. But anyways, yeah. So Kirk is sent back to a period of time which resembles the West, the Wild West, sort of like that type of period. The expansion period of American history, which we seem to go back to a lot, like these kinds of time periods or whatever. And Spock and McCoy get sent back to like an Ice Age type of time period and encounter one of Zorkon's fugitive prisoners there. Kirk encounters this kind of like other guy who I'm not sure, is he also a prisoner? I think he was just part of this escape plan of getting away from the
There's a refugee.
refugee
Yeah.
from there.
It's like, I want to go back in time and be a judge that tries people for being witches. I just want to conduct witch hunts in the past.
Terrible. Like, what a choice. Like, why would you do? Oh, could you just go back like a couple hundred years and you'd be in relatively probably the same kind of comfort or whatever? I guess it's too recent or whatever. Anyways, we learned that unfortunately we learned that when you travel back in time, there's no way back home, because you're prepared, apparently, and your whole physiology, from your cells to your brain patterns, is reconfigured so that you would fit in perfectly in this time period. But Bones, Spock, and Kirk were not prepared, so fortunately they can return back to the future, which they do. First Kirk does it, and then he kind of strong arms Mr. Ataz into finding Bones and Spock, who apparently Spock has been affected so much by the effects of the time travel that he kind of gets in touch with his 5,000 years ago Vulcan ancestry and starts to devolve in a way, and at least he can't control his emotions. He falls in love with what was her name,
Zarabeth.
Zarabeth, who was
Yeah.
awesome. She had a she had a cool vibe to her, even though she was lying as Dr. McCoy. Dr. McCoy turns out, he's not too well in the beginning, but he starts to bounce back, and there's this conflict between him and Spock. But they hear Kirk's call, and they all finally get back to the future, even though Spock's kind of reluctant to go because he falls in love with Zarabeth. But they make it, and that's it. Mr. Ataz flees to his family.
Mhm.
Apparently, that's been waiting for him in some past time, and
He goes back to the Roman era, and he becomes a Roman senator who then hears the word of the son, and becomes a fugitive. Yeah, so
Nice. Nice. And then yeah, that's it. They're off, and the planet gets destroyed, and so does the library, and the technology to travel back in this planet's time. So yeah, interesting, very interesting
yeah.
story. I hope I did justice in the summary. I know you guys. I normally get you guys to do it because you do a much better job, but hey, I
No,
tried.
you got all the main points. It's getting me excited. It's such a good episode. I just like
Yeah, it is.
hearing about it. So yeah.
So yeah, share what you thought about it. Tell us your favorite bits or your overall thoughts about it.
Oh, I really like this one. I've always really liked it. This is a high quality episode for me. I mean, I think just that sci-fi concept of having the library and you going into the past, whether you think it makes sense in terms of timelines or whatever, it's just a neat idea. I mean, it's similar. It reminds me a little bit of in the C.S. Lewis books, that kind of wood between the worlds where they could go into different pools of water and emerge in different realities. But just that idea of a central node that then you can go, escape into other worlds and other pasts. I think that's great. And visually, I think it's a very interesting episode. I mean, you have that gorgeous cave set with the strong oranges contrasted with the complementary blues of Spock and Kirk's uniforms, and it's a beautiful set. And I think those Spock and McCoy moments are some of their strongest moments of the series. I mean, I love a couple of those interactions. Just really hit. When Spock yanks him up and like, I don't like that. I don't think I ever did. And then coming to terms with that his mind has been altered. I mean, I think the Kirk scenes are not quite as good. Partly the I think the whole musketeers and wench stuff is maybe they could have dialed the volume back a little bit on that, but it's still fun. And actually, if you like really follow along with the dialogue, I think the writer does a pretty good job of like kind of capturing a 16th century sort of English feel or whatever it's supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was earlier. I was saying something about the expansion period, but I guess he was looking at a disc that looked like it had stagecoaches and stuff. But those are actually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
that's probably
interesting.
like the 1600s. Actually, is correct where he
Yeah.
actually ends up. Yeah.
Yeah, interestingly though, I was reading that they originally planned to have Kirk in one of the drafts go back to like the West sort of Barbary Coast, California. I mean
Right.
that fit,
Right.
but then they
That's right.
realized they had all these great sets from Paramount that were just like European Street or something. So let's just have them go to the
And
kind of that
originally it was
era
supposed to be called A Handful of Dust because McCoy and Spock end up in a desert
in the
kind
desert.
of, yeah, or like yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's right. I
But
remember reading that.
there's no original music in this episode, but they use the tracked music really well. There's just a couple really dramatic moments in it, and yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, now I'm rambling now, but because I'm sort of having a hard time describing why I like it so much. But I think it boils down to those moments between McCoy and Spock, or at the end when it's it did happen, Spock, yes, but that was 5,000 years ago, and she is dead now, dead and buried long ago. Just those moments are great, and it's interesting too. It's unique in that no one else, none of the regular crew appears. This is the only time that happens. I mean, you hear Scotty's voice. This is the only time they're never
We
on
don't
the
even yeah,
Enterprise
we don't even see
at
the
all.
Enterprise in this
Yeah, for the
episode, yeah.
entire episode. So
Except for
it's
the exterior, yeah, in that
except for
one
the
shot, yeah.
exterior. Yep. So yeah, it's an interesting setup. It's good performances, and I think it's visually very beautiful. So I like it a lot.
Excellent. Father, what'd you think?
I don't like this episode much, but I like a lot of things that are in it. But the concept, I agree, it is interesting. The we can escape the apocalypse of our world by jumping into the past. That is kind of a neat idea. It's just it always feels weird to me how it's so I don't know. It's like not quite alien, but also like not
Yeah.
quite Earth. It's like it feels like this planet, this world kind of lacks its own identity. It's like, well, it's very similar to Earth history, but not similar
A
enough
lot,
that we're gonna call it a
and we see that
parallel
a lot
Earth.
in the TOS universe, if you
Yeah,
will,
I
like
would
the
say that we
TOS
see it.
galaxy. Like,
I would say we
yeah,
see it
it's
too
like,
much. It kind of feels old hat after, you know, when you're binging all these episodes, it kind of seems to pop up too
in
often.
TNG, at least when we go back to like periods that were similar, like they change things, like the architecture's like based on a certain, there's like a feature that like that civilization like really tuned into, and so you see that like the Mintakans or whatever, you know, they're like, you know, Bronze Age type, but they're different enough, you
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
that you see like that. Yeah,
I
That's
do
fair.
like the Spock and McCoy stuff. You know, the one moment I really love in this episode that's kind of the highlight for me is when you know, McCoy is like, you know, you listen here, you green-blooded Volk, you pointy-eared whatever he's saying, and then when Spock gets angry and snaps, and he's like, I don't
yeah, it's a
like
great
that.
moment.
In fact, I think I never did, and I'm sure of
Yeah.
it now. And it's like, oh, scary Spock. So that's exciting. You know, that sparks. Whenever people say like, you know, Gene Roddenberry didn't want conflict between the characters in Star Trek, I always say bullshit, because there is so much of it in all the shows that Gene was involved in, basically. But the stuff with Atos in the library, I do think that's pretty cool. Like this guy is just trying to do his job. He's just trying to save everyone. They're like, when he's got like Kirk stunned, he's pushing him on that cart. And he's like, just hang on, sir. I'll get. I mean, this guy thinks he's like doing his duty. You know, he thinks he's like saving.
Yeah.
He's
I forgot
saving
about
people,
it. So good. He's just like
he's
he's
Found the
pushing him with
luggage
that
cart.
cart. It's like
he's gotta be
I
getting
swear
so
we've seen that
frustrated.
cart on Buck Rogers or someplace as well. I don't know. I feel like
Maybe.
it's been on something else.
But he's like, I'm just trying to save your life. God, like you're like the last person I need to save. Please just go in the damn
He
portal.
actually calls
Please, I
him.
need
Does
to
he
get back
call?
to my wife. Please just go in this portal.
Does he call him a suicidal maniac at one point or something
Yes,
like that?
yes.
Like, he's like, you're a suicidal maniac.
I don't know, like the Zarabeth thing it's a little weird how they make her out to be so selfish. It's like I guess that's not weird. Like that's okay. It's like easy to, you know, picture someone being like that lonely. I guess like the way they frame it is like, well, clearly as a woman, she would
Yeah,
need people to love
that
and
line from
admire her.
McCoy,
So
like, yeah, he says she's a woman who's been alone for a long time. Yeah, like almost implying that because she's a woman, she's
like
gonna
any
be
woman
like,
would be like a
yeah,
selfish
like,
asshole in this situation.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's a little, but I mean, we see that we're gonna see more of that, I guess, before the end.
This is just kind of a minor nitpick, but I feel
Yeah.
like they really phone in some of the action beats here, like when Kirk is kidnapped, or when like he grabs that guard's arm and is like, I'll break your arm. It's like, I know it's like the show is like winding down, and they probably like didn't care that much about some of
Could have
that
been
stuff,
a little
but
more interestingly choreographed, perhaps. Yeah.
but overall, I do agree. It is like a neat concept, and you know, even like a lackluster episode, in my opinion, still offers a lot of enjoyment to me. I don't have a bad time when I'm watching it, but it definitely falls short in my rankings of the various episodes. It's not one I really look forward to, but I don't hate it when I'm watching it.
It's also not like my favorite episode, but it's a good one for me. I think that like I end up enjoying it, and there are a couple of like little things that, you know, aside from the really cool sci-fi concept, I did like just the fact that like the performances I think were pretty good overall, especially like you said, the McCoy Spock Zarabeth story was really, you know, pretty solid in terms of the way it was performed and stuff like that. And I agree with you, Sub Commander. The cave was an awesome set. Like I actually like found myself admiring it a
It
lot.
looks good.
Yeah, it looks really good.
All the
You
sets
know,
look pretty good in this one.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. But that cave is really. It feels like there's a lot of depth, and there's only one scene where you kind of catch the magic going on, and you can see like how close the background really is
Mm.
to them. But otherwise, it looks like that. It's just like an expansive and extensive cave, and it's pretty cool. We got a question from Cake is Eternal in the audience. So when would you all go? So when would you all go if you could go back anytime in our planet's history? Why don't you go first on that one, Father?
Oh, I would just probably go back to the 80s or 90s. I would go back to the 80s when I was born and just like live my whole life again, I guess.
That's interesting, but like you'd be also helping yourself, like because you'd be older.
Or I'd be like hurting myself.
Or
But no, whatever you do, don't do that. Just trust me. Just trust me.
you have
Yeah.
to time
Yeah,
travel.
like,
at
who the
certain
hell is this
ages.
weirdo? Like telling me like not to. I'm like just you have to believe me.
What about you, Sub Commander? What
Uh,
period of Earth's history
Oh
would
gosh,
you go back to?
that's a very interesting question. I mean, because there's so many periods I find interesting, but I don't know if I'd want to live in them. I mean, I would love to see, the Aztec capital city in its prime pre Spanish arrival, but I wouldn't want to live there. Or the Imperial Rome in its heyday. But I think I like having access to antibiotics and electricity and stuff like that. So
Modern
I would
hygiene
probably
is it's kind of
I would go
a
back to
big
20.
deal.
I would do the same thing as Father, though I probably wouldn't go as far back. I'd probably go to 2019 and make sure I didn't keep playing on my injured knee when I was playing tennis, so that I didn't mess that up for the next couple years. But no, I don't think I would do anything too bizarre.
I would probably take advantage of my family history. My understanding is, and this might be totally wrong, I'll go back in time and find out that it's totally not the case. But I'm descended from the Mughal kings of India, so I'd probably
Okay.
I'd go back and
Taj
hope
Mahal.
hope these looks get me into into the palace, and take my place as like a long lost prince over there and just live the good life.
And you'd
Princing
also
away.
you would never have access to toilet paper again the rest of your existence. So
I'm sure there's like a royal river back in the palace somewhere where I can go do my business. Like I'm
But
not
he'd have
No,
three handmaidens or hand.
There you go.
to deal
I
with
would-
it, so.
no deodorant, no toothpaste.
Oh come on! There's got to be like
I'll
I'll
think
invent
that
all
when I'm-
those. That's the thing is I'll invent all those
Oh,
things.
okay.
I'll like help
Whenever
them
I'm
figure
watching
it out.
period pieces, I always I can't help myself. I always think about that type of stuff.
I like this comment from Bully Fine Coup. That magistrate is very suspicious for choosing that time period of hangings and burnings. Perhaps he really wanted an excuse to kill people. Yeah, he's now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, it's pretty suspicious.
Yeah. Yeah,
always
actually,
look-
so hell, I want to go back to the 1600s to Massachusetts, and I want to be a witch finder and burn
A
women
witcher?
at the stake. Yeah.
Ay,
What's interesting to consider is how long ago did he go to that past? I mean, maybe he was a young man and it was different, 50, say he's 75, and maybe at age 25 is when he actually went into the past and it was a different world. And then, not a different world, but things were different 50 years prior. And then he aged in this time period to become the person he was.
Well,
But he
we've
always
seen.
looked-
Yeah, we've seen how things can change so quickly. So yeah, it's true. But you were gonna say he always looked what?
Oh, it's just my snarky comment. He always looked like the Quaker Oats man to me.
He
So
Yeah.
every time I see him, I get a hankering for oatmeal.
Especially when he's like running down the street. I don't know, when he just has like the long white hair just in a black
Yeah.
robe.
Yeah.
I thought that was a funny shot when Captain Kirk first mentions the library, and it kind of like zooms in on him, and he does that weird
Yeah.
face. Like, I
like that.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like-
Well, that was a good moment, I think. There's a lot of interesting visuals in the episode, honestly. So that's it's not like the empath where they're just sitting in like this black warehouse. There's a lot of like the cave set looks good. The European street, the library was neat.
Yeah.
And I got another thing to compliment. Sometimes I'm critical of the remastered special effects, but sometimes I think they're actually pretty cool. the remastered version of this does have like that cool depiction of the supernova destroying the what's it called, Niobe, whatever.
Niobe,
I think
Niobe
is the system Beta
9 or
Niobe or
something.
something.
Beta
Beta
Niobe,
Niobe,
yeah.
yeah.
But Sarpedon is the planet.
Right.
Yeah.
Sarpedon, I
Beta
think, yeah.
Niobe is the star that goes nova.
Okay.
And they mentioned that again in the animated series episode, the last one that has Robert April in it, the counterclock incident.
Okay, interesting.
I knew that, but I didn't realize it was the. I didn't realize they would mention it in that episode. I forgot that
they have nova stuff going on in that one.
Also in the novels, apparently, obviously not canon, but Spock and Zarabeth have a child named Zar.
Yeah, that's what, yesterday's son or something.
Yeah, yesterday's son.
Yeah, I never read
and
it.
Time for yesterday. So those are great names. So yeah, that is the case. And apparently the book. Let's see here. A series of photo novels which took photographic stills from actual episodes and arranged word balloons and text over them to create a comic book formatted story.
Are you talking about stuff that John Byrne did?
I don't know. I think it might be them, but in May of 1978 they released this.
Oh no! This has been long before John Byrne stuff. Yeah, the picture books.
PJ from Boatwreck says the hottest cave woman that ever lived. and yes, I think I don't know if I read it, but Bully says Dom would go back to the gangster days so he could wear a fedora. And yes, Jill knows you well. I also assumed you would go back to those days, Dom.
Dom, that's fedorable.
That's fedora. That's pretty fun. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, talking about Mariette Hartley and Zarabeth as the kind of in that skimpy cave woman outfit. I mean, but she brings some dignity to that part. I mean, she's a good actress, and as much as I don't like when they had Spock attracted to Droxine a few episodes prior in the Cloudminders, I buy his attraction in this one. Because of, I mean, how I justified in my head is, this whole 5,000, going back 5,000 years, it's sort of been established in the immunity syndrome when Spock could kind of telepathically detect that the Vulcans and the Intrepid died. Let's assume there's some sort of link that he has with his home world or other Vulcans in general, even across vast distances of space and time. So I think 5,000 years wasn't long enough. I think they should have gone back like maybe 50,000 years or 100,000 years. I don't think 5,000 years is quite enough. But I buy that he's, because of this link, he's reverting to that sort of earlier form where he's more, emotional and his rage is near the surface and that. And I mean, I just have to call out what a great performance Nimoy does. Just, having, you see the subtle hints of this side of him coming through, and then it's not so subtle, and then pulling it back, and then he's himself. And I love that one moment where, McCoy is like entreating him to, why haven't you done anything about it? Why haven't you gone, and he turns around and we've discussed this subject, and you don't understand what can't get back means, or let me tell you that, like, get this through your head. You can't get back. And
he's so mean.
He's so severe. And but with like, there's just these layers coming through, which I feel like I've missed in other interpretations of Spock. I just think Nimoy had that character down so well.
Yeah, and I agree with you that 5,000 years probably wasn't enough time. I thought the same thing, but maybe a Beta Niobe year isn't exactly equal to a Vulcanian year, so I don't Earth year. So maybe it was longer.
Yeah,
that's a good point. I like that theory as well.
I was thinking that in Star Trek when like a non-human character says years, and it's like, well, your years probably wouldn't be equal. I mean, Earth year and a Mars year aren't even anywhere close to being equal. Yeah. So another solar system, it could be like way off.
Yeah, how long is a year on Mars on Earth? It's like several
2.5 years or something.
2.5 years, yeah. It's interesting. That is interesting. I
Yeah,
forgot
even
about
in our
that.
own solar system, then like, I think like Neptune, it takes like 30 years just for their day or something, just to, or maybe it's the I can't remember, but there's so
Something
much
like that. Yeah, the
variation.
scales are
Yeah,
insane.
yeah.
The further out the orbits are, it's true. Um, um, I totally forgot what I was gonna say. It had to do
Uh,
with. Oh,
Cavewood McCoy. Yeah.
it had to do with Spock, but actually, I just remembered there's a funny a little quiz going on here in the audience. Jill wants to know, let's have a pool about how long Tal will stick it out in the animated series discussions. Joel says, "I say all the way." I say all the way too. I think we can keep you entertained enough to want to come back for more.
Oh yeah, I think
I
so.
like the animated series. I think it's the third best Star Trek show in my opinion.
Hmm. Well, and I've grown quite fond of this little almost weekly ritual we do here, and just get together and talk about one of these things. So, I mean, I know I lose interest in non-TOS pretty quickly, but we'll see. We'll see. Put me down for $5 for staying for the whole thing.
Awesome. I'll take that bet.
It's only 22 episodes, so it doesn't take
Yeah,
long
that's
to
true
get
too.
to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited about that too. And we'll be doing them we'll be kicking them off around the same time as Lord X. So that's cool that the two animated shows will have new
Damn it.
and old ones. What happened?
I'm gonna be in Vegas that weekend.
Oh yeah, for kickoff we can hold
Yeah.
back.
Oh yeah.
We can wait for you to kick off the animated series discussions.
Yeah, but
We'll
you've held it
talk
back for me a
offline.
couple times.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
We're at Starfleet Boy. We're not opposed to waiting a week or two. It's
I know, but
fine.
I also like always complain whenever we have to wait too long. So I don't like. I'll become a hypocrite if I ask you to wait for me.
It's okay.
Well, see, so what you would do is you would go back in time to like the last time we did the episode, and then make sure that we did them, weekly, and not. That's where you would go in the past. But
But yeah, it doesn't take long to get. If we start the animated series in a couple of weeks, like we'd finish in like January or February. So
yeah,
I remember what I was gonna say. The design of the portals to the past reminded me of the Iconians, right? In
oh yeah, and
the Next
TNG
Generation, yeah,
and
they had like a
DS9.
similar kind of technology of these gates or portals, except it wasn't clear if if they were also be able to use that for time travel. It was more like a portal that took you in real
Right.
time, I think, from one location to the
But
other.
the portals in this episode, they transport you through space also because you're getting to different locations on the planet. Right, they're not all just like showing up at the library, but like
that'd
a
be
Right.
interesting though if it was like this is what was on this spot, 5,000 years ago,
Actually,
or
I mean,
300 years ago.
yeah, they're not
I
far,
mean,
right? Both of them are close to the library because, yeah, actually, both of them are close to, well, wherever those portals are, they're not far from, you know what I mean? Like, so maybe the
Mm.
library is there. Maybe
I,
that
I
is the case, is that
I've
it
never
is.
thought about it, but it's interesting. I think you could make a case either way that they're on the other side of the world, or maybe it's the exact spot. Who knows? But yeah, no, just that idea of portals and gates to different places is it's so cool. It's so cool. And I like how they did, even with their, the old effects, from the '60s. The flashing negative as they go in and out of the portal
Yeah,
when Kirk is kind of wrestling with Ataz. It's very effective. It's
it
simple
was
but
effective
effective.
in it, and it was done really well. Like when they were partially outside of it, you could see their bodies like work.
Yeah,
Like it looked really good. The effect was pretty awesome. I think it held
held up.
after all
Yeah.
this time. We have I can't wait to get to Yesterday, written by Dorothy Fontana. Oh, cool. Oh, and also Jill has spoken. We can't have any animated series discussions without Fathery. I have spoken.
Oh well, I guess I have to
there,
show up for that one then.
there you go. Cool. What else about this episode? Let's see. We covered pretty much the main action, the characters in it as well. I guess the librarian. Um, uh, yeah, I think we covered everything. There's not much trivia on this one either. Let's see what. what I wrote
Yeah, I
down
mean,
here in my notes.
we talked about Ian. I think Ian Wolfe is his name, the guy who plays Atos, and then Septimus and Bread and Circuses is
Right.
back for this. I was
Oh,
reading. Yeah, go
someone
ahead.
was saying in the audience, I think it was Jill, that they wish this was the last episode of the original series. According to Stardates, it's the
Oh,
last mission. So apparently,
interesting.
according to the Stardate, this episode is
Wow.
chronologically the last of the series, even though its production number and air date are earlier than Turnabout
That's
Intruder.
if you listen to Stardates, though. I mean,
Yeah.
if you
No, I know
follow
there's.
Stardates,
It's
then
like
Tasha Yar shows up after her death in Next Generation. So.
Ah, really? Okay.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
always ignore I love that in Strange New Worlds, their star dates are all over the place because it's like the
That's
original
good.
series like that. Yeah.
That's great. You know, there one story about Stardates I got to share. I heard from the Inglorious Trek Spirits podcast, which is a great podcast.
Mhm.
Is they found out who leaked the news of Spock's death in Star Trek 2. I mean, they knew it was Roddenberry because they had given everybody copies of the script. Let me make sure I get this right. But the scripts are all identical, except the star dates were a little bit, jiggered around, and nobody paid any attention to the star dates. So it's like somehow they're able to trace that it was the copy that had this star
That's
date in it, and that it
clever.
was
Yeah.
therefore it had to have been, Susan Sackett or Roddenberry's office. But yeah, nobody. I like the star dates as more of a kind of an aesthetic place setting rather than a bona fide system to work out. But
That's pretty funny. That's smart. I
yeah,
want you could still use that.
Yeah, I wonder
You-
was
yeah,
that was probably Harv Bennett's idea.
yeah, I don't know.
That's how they
Yeah.
knew. Um, this also, this episode, with that weird kind of limitation of time travel, they kind of maybe use that concept a little bit in Star Trek Discovery with the interdimensional and time travel concept, that where Emperor Giorgio is suffering from the effects of like being displaced from her universe and time.
Mhm.
And so I wonder if
You can do one or the other, but you can't do both.
you're right. Like, I guess not. But I wonder if that was in any way a reference to this, or if the writers just kind of had a happy coincidence on that one.
I don't know.
I can't comment. I haven't seen it, but it sounds similar.
Father, he's thinking about it.
I think it was a
That's
happy coincidence.
I think it might have been a happy coincidence as well. Let's see here. Joel wants to know, how do they not spoil the timeline though? Kirk can't behave that well. In reference to, I mean, it's true he is always messing around with time, but
I guess they didn't really change that much to the. I mean, Zarabeth, it was only her there anyway, so she had this experience for all we know. I mean, putting the novels aside, she may have thought it was all a dream by the end. I mean, I don't think it would have affected the future much. I mean, I don't think you can think about time travel too much in general because it just will never work out. But
also, ultimately, the supernova is inevitable. So, like, these people
Right.
kind
so,
of have,
it doesn't matter if they change things. It's all like it's all gonna get blown up anyways. There's not gonna be anyone to experience the alterations. Like they've all left their time and traveled into the past. So
Not only that, they've been like completely kind of altered to fit in that time period, including their brain patterns. So their way of thinking might be different. So actually, that goes
what if
back
they
to
just always had like the altered timelines. What if like throughout the entire history of this planet, there's been like reports of people like strangers just like showing up in towns and stuff. Stuff like that, and then they get to like their nova and they're like, oh, it was us all along fleeing
Yeah.
nova.
Yeah, and that the presence of these out of time strangers is what produces their interest in time travel in general, which is why
In
they
general.
developed the Atavachron instead of space flight. I mean, come on. But no, that's like you run around in circles with that.
The library was a cool set, and having the M5 from
Ultimate Computer.
like was pretty cool to see that piece again. In
Yeah.
fact, I think you could bring that M5 into modern day. I could totally see it on like that computer look on a new show, and it would still look pretty advanced to me. I think it was a pretty cool design.
It holds up better than Landrew.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
I
It's
think half
also
the people would end up in an unexpected timeline after those who went before keep changing history. I think Zorkon. There's a story about Zorkon there somewhere that I think Zorkon's such a cool name. Like I wish they had done more with that. But yeah, lots of cool things that you could talk about. Timey wimey stuff always produces interesting conversations. We know it's one of Fathery's favorite things is time travel. By the way, great interview yesterday on Text Trek with the writer who wrote those episodes of Deep Space Nine. And yeah,
we
so that
spoke
was a pretty
to
cool episode.
Ethan H. Koch. He has the story credit in the DS9 episode Visionary and also the episode Children of Time, both dealing with very unique uses of time travel.
Absolutely. And he showed up in the live chat. That's why it's so much fun to go to these premieres and stuff, because you never know who's going to be in the Text Trek live chat. So it was really
and
cool.
Friday, we're talking to Caitlin Hopkins, who played the Vorta lady Kalina in the ship.
Oh.
And she also played the Janeway imposter in an episode Starfleet Boy probably slept through on Voyager called Live Fast and Prosper.
interesting. Okay.
I'll have to check that one out. What season was that one? Because I actually don't remember.
It was season 6, episode 21.
I'm not
I think
there.
you're not there yet.
I'm not there yet. Okay.
It's an episode you will sleep through.
No. I'll get to it. Let's see, what other bits of trivia do we have here? Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
How do you explain McCoy not reverting to a previous state?
Because he ain't got a telepathic link with other humans.
Yeah, that's true. Duh.
Yeah.
I'd heard that before. Someone that used to bother me, and then I heard someone say that at some point before that, like, oh yeah, it's just like, with the USS Intrepid. I was like, oh yeah, that can kind of work.
Yeah, I've always felt it was sort of implied, but yeah, because if you don't have that implication, it doesn't make a lot of sense what's going on. So yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. It is a good explanation. Actually, it keeps holding up. It's nice. And let's see what else. Well, we already talked about how the interior of the Enterprise is not seen, but we also just don't see.
You do have James Doohan's voice,
and that's the only thing.
For season 3, he was promised an appearance in every episode.
Oh, so that's why he's in that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so I've always speculated if there was a season 4, maybe he would get his name in the opening credits.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
Let's see.
But he's the only of those actors, all the actors on the show. He's the only one outside of the big 3 who ever got that promise of every episode. And McCoy didn't have that in season 1.
That's right. Yeah, there was like 3 or 4 episodes he wasn't in. Well, 3 episodes, I think. Errand of Mercy, Menagerie Part 2, and What Are Little Girls Made Of? Yeah.
And apparently,
of course, where No Man Has Gone Before. But,
right.
I mean,
yes, of course, yeah.
Apparently, Mariette Hartley was not allowed to show her belly button in this episode, which is wild because we've had plenty of belly button before on TOS.
Yeah, I kind of wonder.
It's really strange.
Yeah, why it was so irregularly enforced. I mean, it's a silly rule, of course, but the famous follow-up to that is that when Roddenberry, or she was cast in one of Roddenberry's like Earth 2, or he did these other pilots that didn't sell. She was in it as kind of an alien, and he gave her 2 navels, 2 belly buttons, so that you could see both of them to make up for. I'm not sure if she cared, but he definitely cared about that sort of thing. So
he also wanted to give Counselor Troy 3 boobs in Next Generation. Dorothy Fontana talked him out of that.
Yeah,
talked him out of that. Apparently his this is not a joke that I made up, but apparently his line for putting her in with two navels was the network owed me one. So that's
Yeah. I always remember Mariette Hartley from the old Incredible Hulk show with Bill Bixby. I think maybe in the pilot or the first episode, like she's his wife, and doesn't she die in a
Oh,
I mean, spoiler alert, I think she dies in a fire or something like that.
okay,
But
interesting.
that's I still have that as I think I saw that first before I have a memory of this episode. So I always
oh wow.
associate her with that. I could be wrong, but this is all childhood blurred
Have y'all
together.
ever
But
seen her at a convention or anything like that?
nope. I don't think she does them too much. Well, maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, I
she's
think she's
82
still alive.
now.
Yeah,
She's
she's
still
pretty
alive.
young.
She's 82.
Well, young at the
Yeah.
time.
Well,
Young.
sometimes they wait till they're really old before they get started. Like last year at Star Trek
Yeah.
Las Vegas, that was the first year that Ruth, one of Mudd's women, the one in the brunette in the green dress, she was at Star Trek
Oh.
Las Vegas, and I think she
Oh.
said that was her first convention ever. And
Wow.
you know, she's
Wow.
very old at this point, but she's coming back this year, so I'll see her again in 2 weeks.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, I think she like stopped acting within the next year or two after that, and just
Yeah, she didn't do much acting.
yeah, huh, that's how what a weird life that must be to like be on the have this bit part on a show one time back in the '60s and not pay any attention to it,
Yeah.
and go on and live an entire whole life and like, huh, maybe I'll go to this convention and get you're gonna have hundreds of fans seeking you out just because of this one experience that was so minimal in your life, but
Yeah,
it's just
I guess
in this
she liked
mythos.
it because
Yeah.
she's coming back. I mean, you got to figure at that age you're not going to do stuff you don't like. So
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally.
Oh, that's wild.
Uh,
Well, who knows? We might see her at a future convention. Speaking of conventions, Father, are you going to be reporting, giving us reports from STLV on Text Trek, or how's that going to work
yeah,
out?
I think I'll do some streaming from. I mean, we'll cover the Lower Decks season 3 premiere on Friday as typical, and then I'll probably do like some live streaming from the merch room, just walking around, or maybe talking to people. We'll see. There's a lot of actors. I was sad to see some recent cancellations, but there's still like 130 actors that are going to be there. So,
Very
yeah,
nice.
and it's going to be packed. Like they sold out for the weekend passes, and they sold out for Saturday, so it's going to be jam packed.
okay, cool.
Most excellent. Let's see here. One more comment, which is, I used to rank Voyager dead last in my Trek shows, but it moved up to 4th after the last rewatch. Oh, what's dead last now? That's interesting. Well, eventually we'll get to Voyager on Starfleet Boy. After the animated series, we're gonna move on to Deep Space Nine. That's like the most popular requested show to move on to afterwards. So we'll do episode by episode coverage of Deep Space Nine. In a way, it's continuing because we did TNG to kick it off, and then we went back to TOS. So we're gonna go back to the TNG era. And Jill says I'm not telling what my last show is. That means it's controversial.
It means it's Picard, and she doesn't want to hurt your feelings.
It's all right. That's fine, Jill. You could say Picard. It's fine. and PJ's media reviews is correct. Voyager reviews start in 2026.
I thought you were going to do Voyager and DS9 at the same time.
We might have to overlap. I might do them since they, we'll overlap
right.
how
Just go
they
by like
aired,
air
yeah.
date order.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I mean, that's how I watch them anyways. I always flip back and forth when I'm watching them.
Jill just confirmed Picard. Okay, guys, my heart's broken. I gotta go. Well, final thoughts on this episode. I just want to say I'm kind of bummed. I don't want the game to end. But as far as
ready
episode,
for it to end, 'cause I like the animated series so much. I'm ready to get into that.
As far as episodes are concerned, though, it's a pretty good one. A solid episode. I'm going to give this one a 8 out of 10 for this episode. What about you, Father? What did you think of this episode?
I'll give it 5,000 years out of 3 hours.
Pretty good.
And how about yourself, Sub Commander?
Well, I sang its praises earlier. I like this episode a lot. I will point out it's one of a few examples of when Dr. McCoy shows his inability to deal with the cold, because I think he's got this this situation, and then there's Star Trek 6 where he's in the cold
Oh,
but
yeah.
he
That's
can't deal with
right.
it, and then there's an animated series episode I haven't seen, but it's also he's in the cold and he can't deal with it. So
Yeah, and the
that
Practical
southern
Joker.
that
He's
Southern
a well,
heritage.
yeah, he's a good country southern doctor, southern
That's
country
right.
doctor.
That's
So
right. He
he's
doesn't like Arctic stuff. But yeah, for me personally, I can't resist giving it a 9 just because I like it so much. I mean, I understand what's the bits and pieces that are wrong with it, and I accept all that. It's just one that I like so much. So yeah, 9 out of 10.
very nice. I just got a text message that Terry Metalis has released another little snippet of music from Picard season 3. That Terry Metalis, he's just gonna show us the whole
He
series.
is dying to
He's-
tell people, to show people stuff from
So we'll all go check that out. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you guys next week for Turnabout Intruder, and
Yeah.
we'll celebrate the journey that we've had so far.
the only series finale in all of Star Trek that's a worse episode than Enterprise's season finale.
That's hey, there you go. That's a distinction. So tomorrow, audience, we're not going to have our 1:30 p.m. New Star Trek show on Starfleet Boy. But we will see you at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Father and I will be on the Trek Central stream. Hope you missed us last week.
What are we talking about?
I guess we're just going to talk about
Star Trek.
Yeah, we're gonna hype up. We're gonna get hyped for Lower Decks, I guess. We'll have to see who else is on with us, and audience. You guys get to steer the conversation a little bit there too. So show up and tell us what to talk about. Pretty soon we will be starting our Starfleet Boy After Dark series. Will return on here probably in a couple of Saturdays from now, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and I think I want to talk about the Sandman because I love this series. It's very cool, so tune in for that. And there's a couple other shows. Primarily I started For All Mankind, so I was kind of stagnant on season 1 there,
fantastic season finale.
Yeah, that's
yesterday.
what I heard.
Very intense.
I heard we got some requests to talk about that, so we'll definitely be talking
How
about
far
that
are
as
you?
well. I'm only halfway through season 1. I gotta
Oh,
pick
it
up
hasn't even
some
gotten
scene.
good yet.
Yeah, that's what I
Those
hear.
are like the worst episodes.
Hey, you know what? Everything has to get going at some point. I've been trying to
No,
watch
its
For
worst
All Mankind
episodes
for-
are still really good.
still good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like a
kind of like
gets a lot better.
TOS, kind of like the original series, which is pretty good. Even its worst episodes are pretty good. Look at all that love for all mankind. Wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
we definitely will be talking about it. Anyways, folks, what have you got to promote before we head off?
Well, I'll go first since I don't have anything to promote. This is just my usual stuff for TOS Saturday night tonight. They are doing a doubleheader of The Changeling at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time,
Ooh.
followed by the motion picture. I don't know which version they're going to be watching, actually. Is it the latest and greatest one, or is it the previous? Is it the theatrical release or the TV release? So I don't know about that. You'll have to find out about that. But I'll probably come in for the Changeling. I'm not going to stay up that late to watch the whole.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a 4 o'clock. We're gonna be up till like 4 in the morning with the motion picture.
I mean, I love it.
that.
I love it. I did just see
Yeah.
it in the theater not too long ago, but
Right on.
But that's going on. Otherwise, check out my Twitter profiles at Commander T and at Mr. Leslie TOS. In fact, there was a funny moment at work yesterday where I was just sitting in the lunchroom like this, and someone came up to me and said, "Are you okay?" Or thought I was having a moment. I'm like, "No, I'm content creating. I'm trying to think of something for Mr. Leslie to say because I'm starting to run out of ideas." So just sitting here like thinking, going over every episode, what can I milk for one more Mr. Leslie tweet? But that's it.
That's
for
awesome.
Me, so.
Mr. Leslie, we can follow him. There's plenty of because he's also in Star Trek 4, right? Doesn't he appear in 4?
No, he's not in Star Trek. He's not in any of the films.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. I could have sworn you keep. It's Kyle. Kyle comes
Kyle
back.
comes
Kyle's
back
in
in
Star
two.
Trek too.
That's
Kyle and
right.
Leslie aren't the same person though.
I know, but I just got confused for a second, and
Yeah.
I remember it now. It was
Kyle
that I was
had a
thinking.
much bigger role than Leslie.
Yeah.
Still microscopic in the grand scheme, but
Wait till Leslie shows up on Strange New Worlds.
We should have a Mr. Leslie series. Come on. Well, I guess it's sort of the whole concept of Lower Decks, but
Yeah, I guess that's true. Fathery just posted a link to subscribe to Text Truck. Where are you guys at right now with subscribers?
we're getting close to 900. So
Yeah,
I'd actually
that 1,000 goal.
I promised that if we hit 1,000 by the end of the year, I would do a music video of me singing the song I hate the most, the Enterprise theme, so the Long Road, Faith of the Heart, terrible,
Nice.
god awful song. So I thought that was not going to happen. Now I'm kind of low key terrified it might, and I'll have to be a man of my word and record a music video of me singing that.
Mhm.
So if people want to see that, then yeah, like give them subs up to 1,000.
I'm happy to backup sing on your music video. I've got faith of the heart.
I legit do dislike that. I'm one of the fans who hated it in 2001 and then never got
you
over
never
it.
came around. Yeah.
I got over it.
It's weird
I
to me
actually
now
like
that
it
people
now.
like it.
Yeah, I didn't like it back then, but I do like it today.
Like
So
the
I'm a
Star
convert.
Wars prequels. Like I remember when everyone just
Mm.
didn't like them, and now like a lot of
Mhm.
people are like, no, like those movies were so good. They like
I never
changed my
not liked
childhood.
them. I always liked the prequels. I'm a weird person that way.
You are.
But anyways, good to know. Good to know. Let's get Fathery to 1,000 subscribers, so that we could have him make that music video. I think
Only if it's by
delightful.
the end. If it's after December 31st, I'm not doing it.
I'll create accounts just to make it happen. If it's that close, I'll create YouTube accounts.
The
just
ideal
to-
situation would be if y'all got it to $9.99 on New Year's Eve, and then after midnight, then bumped it up to 1,000.
No,
That would be
it's not.
perfect.
We're gonna do
That's
it.
what I would want.
We got some band names already. Fathery and the Starfleet Boys. Also, Starfleet Boy and the Fatheries has a ring to it.
Does.
And Cake is Eternal doesn't like the theme either. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me today. This is another fun discussion. We'll see you next week for Turnabout Intruder. Until then, live long and prosper, and we will see